We are still in the octave, in the week of Easter, in the 6th day of this octave. Christmas is the incarnation of our Lord is such an important feast that liturgically it is considered as one single day, without sunset and dawn, just one single day. Our experience of Christmas is something, I hope for all of us, is something very positive. At Christmas we feel that everything comes together. If we lag behind with a task, somehow we can catch up with things. We think of our friends, members of our families. So Christmas gives us the sense of joy and the normality of life. And because we celebrate it year by year, it goes so deep into our soul. And it is so important to pass on this experience to our children, and particularly the young generation, that at Christmas, regardless what's going on in the world, Christmas we regain our truer self with God. For many of us, particularly for us who are aging, the experience of the world in general is something very different. Sometimes for adults, for aging adults, it feels like as if we wake up in a world, in a totally different world. It's very different what was going on in our childhood. So many things changed, priorities, political systems. It's a different world with a different speed, with a different way of thinking, with different feelings, and with different plans. Or to use another image, it's a bit like those who like watching science fiction films and science fiction thrillers. It's almost like when the passenger wakes up on the space station and a disaster happened and all sorts of weird things are going on board. But what is the center which holds our world together? What is it what nourishes the desire to be together in love? So that's the importance of Christmas, that it always, the incarnation of the Lord always assures us that He is in control. Maybe that we as humankind are not, but His love is always in control. And yesterday when I was struggling with these heavy thoughts, I opened up an old book of mine. It's a collected writings of Janos Pilinszky. He was a Hungarian poet who wrote fascinating essays during communism in Hungary. And there was a period when he could publish only in the Catholic weekly, the equivalent of the Catholic Herald or the Church Times. And these essays are mind-blowing. Often he recalls his teenage years when he was a soldier, he was recruited to the retrieving troops of the German Hungarian troops, and he saw many horrible things like concentration camps. And he recalls a moment. He was a soldier in a village somewhere in Germany, and they were starving. There was no food. They had to get their food. And because they were young, they were not cruel soldiers. They went to the houses and just knocked on the door, standing in front of the kitchen in the hope that if they could be given some food. And most of the time they weren't given anything. They had to stay outside in the cold. They were starving. But then he heard the ringing of the bell ringing of the church in the village one day. And he said that they were ringing. It's a translation, so it's not a literal translation. The bell was sounding when I entered the church. This was a place where I did not have to stay outside the door, outside the threshold. This was the soldier's first feeling. His uniform no longer meant for him that he is a soldier. Rather, that uniform now meant that he is lonely, that he is an outcast from human society, like the lepers of the medieval period. And now, in this building, within this building, the church, as if this had disappeared. It felt as if someone arrived home. So it was so familiar him to genuflect, to kneel down in one of the back pews. In the outside world, the war was still raging. But here, while he was burying his face in the palm of his hands, for some moment inside, he ceased to be a soldier. Simply, he was only a mere human being, starving, tired, orphaned though, yet a human being. And these words gave me such a consolation when I feel that I can't recognize my world. It changed so much, and things are in our world honestly out of control. Environmental crisis, wars, drug and sex trafficking, and so on. But Janos Pilinszky, he was the master of attention. He teaches us that there is a place, an embassy of love, and every church, every Eucharist, like an embassy building where the laws of the sender country are valid. There is a place from which we can rebuild our world and love. And Christmas is such a gift and a similar arrival what the soldier experienced.